Hey everybody. So my guest today is Peter. He is the CEO of Databox, software that pulls all of your data into one place so you can track performance and discover insights in real time. In this episode, we'll talk about the founding story of Databox, how they're working remotely, and how they grew to an amazing ARR of over $4 million. So Peter, are you ready to take us to the top?
I am.
All right. So first off, can you tell us a bit more about Databox? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so the problem we solve is that most organizations are using a boatload of software. Even small businesses are using, I think there's a stat out there, like 12 pieces of software just to do their marketing. And that doesn't even count sales and customer success or service and finance and all the other things you got to do to run a business. And so what we do is help executives, managers, and even frontline employees pay attention to performance. So it becomes really important if you're running a business to be able to pay attention to performance across that whole business. But it's also really important for people that are doing the work to pay attention to performance, compare their performance to the goals that have been set. And so we're all about getting a company's all their performance data into one spot, allowing them to visualize it, how it makes sense to them, set goals against it, um, monitor it on any device, TVs in the office, desktops, of course, mobile, in Slack. Also receive alerts when things don't look right or if goals are not going to be hit. And overall, by paying attention to that data, being able to optimize both performance on a daily basis and also analyze to find opportunities for improvement on a periodic basis. So that's what we focus on.
Wow, sounds like very useful software to many businesses. So, how are you making money? What is the business model here?
Yeah, we're straight up SaaS business, software as a service business. So we're charging a monthly or quarterly or annually fee depending on how our customers choose to pay us. And so we're a subscription model. Prices start around $59 a month. We have some customers paying us low thousands of dollars a month as well. So it's pretty wide, but more on that lower end of the scale on average. And so, yeah, SaaS business. We do make a little bit of money on helping users implement the product if they want our one-on-one guidance. But we also give a lot of help away for free as well. So it's not something I'm trying to necessarily monetize. Just really cover costs when somebody wants extraordinary or higher level service.
Great. Now, back to you. You are the current CEO, but are you also the founder?
No, I'm not a founder actually. I joined the company a few years in. They had the founders are still in the business. They are all from Slovenia. They flew over here to, long story short, to join an incubator. Ended up joining a TechStars Boston incubator. Ended up building the product, getting a handful of very large enterprise companies, customers early on in their first year. Um, then went and raised a very large round of money for back then, I should say, a very large round seed round. And then as they grew the team, just the product market fit that they had originally found didn't scale. And so they rebooted away from enterprise, and it was a mobile analytics solution, more towards a small business solution. Started building integrations with popular software companies like Google. There's software packages like Google Analytics and HubSpot and Facebook and Facebook ads and all these systems, and then started selling more towards marketers in the SMB small business realm, specifically also with a focus on marketing agencies. But no, I was not a founder. So I joined as CEO. I previously worked at HubSpot. I was there for 9 years. I started as employee 15 and grew the channel sales model out there, which was responsible for about 40% of HubSpot's revenue. And then as HubSpot got big, great company, but I wanted to do the small thing again, and wanted to run something myself this time. And so I ended up meeting up through their investor, Databox investor. I met up with one of the founders, and we hit it off. And 6 months later, I joined as CEO to help them, start scaling the organization and the business.
Wow, that's cool. Thanks for sharing the founding story as well.
Yeah.
And is your team mainly based in Slovenia? Can you tell us a bit more about the team behind Databox?
Yeah, so we, as of today, or as of April 1st, I guess, we have 72 members of the team now. We are There are four of us here in the U.S., and then the rest are in different countries with a heavy presence in Slovenia and Serbia. We have a handful of other people in different places, but that's the majority of the team there. Yeah.
So, on a more personal note here, as the CEO, what is your most valuable lesson up to this point?
Lots of them. I like to say that. So I had a startup that I ran before I joined HubSpot, and I did everything wrong there. So I have like a million lessons from that one. And then at HubSpot, we did things wrong, but a lot of things we did right. So I saw the opposite playbook there. I'd like to think that I learned a lot there, and we've been able to apply it and avoid a lot of painful lessons. I probably would say that the biggest challenge we've had, I don't like to say failure because we're doing just fine, is we embarked on a re-architecture of the platform last year, and we didn't estimate the complexity or the length of the project very well. So it's taken us a lot longer, and it's been a little painful as we've rolled out pieces of it. Um, I don't know that we could have done a lot better with it without even stretching the project out even further. Um, but I think that was a challenge, and we've since implemented. I'd say the founder has since implemented a lot of improvements in order to avoid something like that again. But that was probably the biggest challenge. I think in every SaaS company, you get to a point where you can't do the things you want to build, or you can't build the things your customers are asking you for, and you have to rethink either the technology you're using, how you've architected the product, and yeah, it's never an easy decision to make to do that, and it's always always doesn't go to plan. It seems, in my experience, but it always works out in the end. We had a similar thing at HubSpot. It was a very painful re-architecture. And this is when we were probably doing 100 million in revenue, when we rolled out stuff that just didn't work for customers, and so I think that's the most painful thing that you can do at a SaaS company is when the product doesn't work. Is really the product is what oftentimes the product is the key to marketing. The product is the key to sales. Product isn't just a product that you give after someone's convinced to buy. It's often the thing that they experience first, especially in a freemium model. So that was probably the hardest thing we've learned so far.
That's awesome, and I can relate to that. What is the main challenge when getting new customers to the product for you and your team right now?
So our main challenge is not so much like the lead or getting the sign up. There's a market for it. We get about 5,000 signups a month for the product. Um, all that's driven through content marketing, so very low marketing cost of customer acquisition. Um, but the bigger challenge is getting those users set up initially. What we're selling is custom. At the end of the day, it's customizable solution, meaning that they come in and they're going to have different data or metrics that they're going to want to track. They're going to want to track them differently than other companies might want to track them, and our tool enables that. And we're rated as the easiest to set up tool out there. But there's still just a knowledge gap between what the user might want and what they can communicate to us what they want, or a gap between them knowing what they want and knowing how to get that out of our product. And so the biggest challenge we have is just connecting with those newer users, figuring out what they need to track and speaking the same language, and then building that for them or showing them how to do that. That's the biggest challenge. And so we've actually just doubled our support team. We made 25 hires this quarter, all in sales and support, all starting in support, to learn the product, and we're focused in on that problem: is how do we identify what a user needs as efficiently as possible and give it to them as efficiently as possible.
Makes sense. So, at what stage is Databox right now in terms of revenue, and how much time did it take to get to this point?
Yeah. So we're just under 4.2 million ARR at this point, about 2,200 customers. Um, it took us, I'd say, so when I joined, which was at the beginning of 2017, There was just a maybe there was low double digit customers, so and low maybe like 50,000 in annual revenue. So it's pretty close to zero. As I said, the company pivoted at that point right before I joined, and so it was really starting at scratch. So I guess 4 years it took us is the short version.
Wow, great numbers and growth. Love it, Peter. Great job. Now, let's wrap this up with a lightning round of 6 questions to inspire others. Now, before we dive into today's lightning round, let's hear a quick word from a sponsor. Did you know that you could use one single software to get a consolidated cash flow from different sources? Cinder can sync all the necessary payment details like tax, discounts, locations, including multi-currency transactions. Just connect your payment providers and enjoy automated synchronization and bank reconciliation in one click. With Cinder, you can also get full and detailed sales information for your financial reports to have a daily overview of your business results. To book a free demo and start a free trial, head over to Synder.com. That's SYNDER.com. Now let's go back to the interview. If you would start a SaaS today or join one as a CEO, what would be the first action to take?
Oh, I find the simplest product that people will pay for. I think in every one of my 3 SaaS businesses that I've either started or joined early, um, they were complex products. And when I look at some of the other businesses that I have grown a lot faster, I think they all have a common theme of like they built something that provided quick value, that wasn't intense from an engineering perspective, and that enabled them to scale their customer acquisition a lot faster. So I think if I could do it all over again, I'd pick something really simple. Of course, it's less defensible, and then you ultimately need to develop a more complex or product or find other ways to differentiate. But I would start simple.
I can see your point here. What are some of your favorite software that you can't live without in running daily operations of Databox?
Um, can I say upvoting? Is that all right? Without like coming off as a kiss butt?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Awesome.
We use a lot of tools, and there's a bunch. So I'll give you a few just to get a handful. But I would like to talk about how Buddy has helped us, because it is something I do talk about frequently. But yeah, we use Intercom for chat. We use HubSpot for tickets. We use HubSpot for CRM, deal tracking, email campaigns. Um, what else are we using? Mixpanel for product analytics. Obviously, we use our own product to pull data together from all those tools. We use Google Analytics heavily, Search Console, SEMrush. So we're using a lot of different tools. We just started using Upvote, I think maybe 2 or 3 quarters ago. It was an initiative that we had wanted to do for a year and a half, but our fear was that there would be like we knew what we needed to work on in product for like a year, and we wouldn't be able to respond really to many of the requests. So we finally did it, and it's done a few things. The first thing it did was made our support team significantly more efficient. We used to actually take tickets where people would request stuff and then load it into our project management system and then try to have our support team log whenever somebody else requested that. So we were doing like upvoting but manually, and obviously it was inefficient, but it was also not as effective, right? Because there was a lot of potential for people to not follow that process or not even know that there was a request, or if we got busy, we wouldn't log the request. So having upvote is huge there. It's also allowed us to see very quickly what users really care about most. So there was always like 20 things we thought users would care about, but seeing the ones that they care about most has really helped us prioritize the ones with the biggest impact. And then I'd also say it allows us to validate our own ideas. So putting ideas out there, writing our own entries into Upvote, and then sharing that with users that we think might find it interesting and asking from their perspective. It's a very lightweight way to kind of do some idea or product validation. And so it's been a game changer for us. And as we're coming out of this re-architecture that I mentioned earlier, I think it'll be even more impactful for us to use it that way.
Wow, that's great. It's always good to hear that we solve some of the problems we tend to solve. So that's great. What about apps? What's your favorite app on your phone?
On my phone, I'm somewhat addicted to Twitter, unfortunately. So like if you checked my usage. I'm sure Twitter is right up there. Yeah, I'll use Slack, and I like Pocket Casts. I listen to a lot of Pocket Casts, trying to get more exercise here. Always taking the dogs for a walk or whatever, and so I'm listening to podcasts through Pocket Cast.
And what is your favorite book that you would recommend to people that are starting in SaaS?
I think Traction is probably the one that I would push. Traction by Gino Wickman. He's the founder of Entrepreneurial Operating System. I think SaaS businesses are, if you get it right, if you get the formula right, you got to get a lot of things right. I think they're one of the most easiest businesses to run, and have so much opportunity. Like there's so many different ways you could innovate, so many different ways you could scale. And I think without a planning process around how you do that and how you make those decisions, and how you communicate those decisions, and then how do you keep your team on track? Like I think if you do that, you get lost. If you don't do that, you'll get lost. So I highly recommend that. We also have a free course that we created called Predictable Performance that complements that as well, for companies that really want to be data driven.
Great recommendation. And I will link to the course in the show notes as well. What SaaS brand do you admire the most?
Oh, I spent 9 years at HubSpot, so I have to start with them. Brian and Dharmesh, I didn't always agree with every decision they made, but every decision they made seemed to work out quite well. And of course, all the decisions collectively have created an amazing company. Brian Halligan likes to say they're still just getting started, and I believe him. And looking at the strategy and how ambitious it is, I think they are just getting started. So I'm long on HubSpot, and I think they did an amazing job. And we've copied some of the things that I learned at HubSpot around building brand through content and community. I think that's probably the number one, I'd say.
Well, great, Peter. Thanks for your time today and sharing your story with us. To conclude this interview, where can we learn more about you and Databox?
So databox.com, just like it sounds. And I'm on Twitter, PC4Media, PC, the number 4 media, short for Peter Caputa the Fourth. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if somebody wants to reach out there.